So, British Landeur, a right wing grifter on YouTube, has done a video on the Green Party and their policies. So, let's get straight into it. Let's see if you can debunk Zack Polanski and the Greens parties.
Today I'm going to talk about the Green Party. Why? Because their membership has surged to 140,000 and polls are putting them around 15%, level pegging with the Liberal Democrats and maybe 1 or 2 points behind Labour. So it's about time we had a discussion. And they're a strange old party, aren't they? Because their leader is a Jewish guy from Eastern Europe and their deputy leader screamed Allahu Akbar when he won his council seat.
We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar.
Clearly they're a
Scary.
strange pair, but something is working. They are getting it done. People are being drawn to the Green Party. The proof of that is in the pudding. It's in those membership numbers. So what is it? What's drawing people towards them? What policies do they have? And that is a very interesting question. Let's take a look at some of the Green Party policies, and we'll start with one of the least controversial, decriminalising all drugs.
We know that the war on drugs has not worked. The state spends billions of pounds every year trying to get to grips with criminal activity of drugs gangs, of serious organised crime that goes into and supporting the drugs industry. Very clear that people have always and will always use drugs. Some of those drugs are currently illegal. Some of them are absolutely legal. We know that this is just a part of human society. What we are saying is that we shouldn't be putting the burden that currently exists on state infrastructure at the moment to tackle the drugs use issue like it is done through the war on drugs.
What's fascinating to me is that she says the war on drugs has failed, so we may as well just decriminalise them. And I'm sure if you're a midwit, that logic goes really hard. You look at that and you think, yeah, that totally makes sense. But it doesn't, does it? The logic itself is terrible. There are lots of people doing lots of bad things. That doesn't mean we should just decriminalise the bad things.
Okay, so taking drugs is bad. Okay, on what level? If you're addicted, maybe. But should people have the freedom to take drugs? I think they should. It hasn't worked. Prohibition doesn't work. You actually make people want to take it more, especially young people. It's cool, it's edgy, whatever. I like just say it's faulty logic, not actually explain why.
I mean, you could argue that we've lost the war on sexual assault. Are we going to decriminalise sexual assault?
What? That is not an argument. That is a midwit argument. It's not the same. Taking drugs into your own body and harming other people is very different. And there's harm in the drug industry. But that's an argument to try and alleviate that and make it available so people aren't going for the black market.
No. And I do understand, by the way, that there's a salient difference between someone who uses drugs and someone who commits a sexual assault because the drug user is typically only harming themselves. I do get that, but the drug dealers are typically harming lots of people, right?
Yes, that's why we should decriminalise it, regulate it, so that people can get good medical grade drugs, tax it, and then you don't have this highly organised criminals that are highly organised running riot.
And again, I just want to say, the point here is that the logic of saying the war on drugs has failed, so we should just give up on it, is awful. You could say this.
They haven't said give up on it. They've said let's tackle it with the medical consensus that this is an issue that you don't just criminalise. You treat these people with compassion, empathy, and tackle it that way, because that's what the evidence suggests. This is pure emotion.
Thing about the war on terror. You have to give better reasoning than that. Now, does that mean
No, you haven't looked at what they've said. No, the war on terror, actually, we've got a lot of our blood on our hands with the war on terror, our interference in the Middle East. Look at Iraq, Afghanistan, just our meddling in the Middle East over the last 100 years. That's what's caused a lot of fundamentalism. And the same with drugs. You decriminalise it, it goes underground, highly organised criminal outfits that can smuggle drugs into the UK. it's just so emotional. There's no, again, he can't agree with this and go, oh yeah, actually, this is really good policy, because his fans would be like, what? Are you a communist?
Saying that there's no room to maneuver within our current drugs policy. No, not at all. Is there an argument to be had about legalizing marijuana and turning it into a regulated, taxable industry? I think there is. I mean, many American states have done exactly that. I think there's a discussion which could be had there. But talking about legalizing or decriminalizing heroin use, that's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? And
Why? If people are going to use it, I'd rather them do it in a safe environment where we can regulate it. And if they do overdose, not treat them as a criminal, treat them as a human, and get them the help, the mental health help. Because that would save lots of money in trying to decriminalize it.
look, the argument here is that you'll create safe spaces for people to do these drugs, and that way, if they run into any trouble whilst they're doing it, medical assistance can be provided more quickly and it will save lives. I actually understand the arguments. Like, those kinds of arguments are not totally insane, but I just think there's a better way. None of these really hard substances are produced in our country. So why aren't we just getting a grip of the problem of
Some are.
importation, of people bringing these things across the border? That's how you save lives. That's how you stop it. It can be done. It just requires the willpower and the financing to actually tackle it.
Okay, where are you going to get that money from? These, as I said, these criminal gangs are highly organized. We're talking about billions of pounds. International networks of drug dealers, and it's so organized. Yes, just stop that. No, that's the point they are. If we actually try and tackle this in an indirect way, we will cut the supply. And it's not going to get rid of the black market completely. But if people are going to a medical or government-based resource or source for their drugs, it will alleviate the supply.
To make a goddamn difference. That's the solution, I think. Anyway, like I said, that's the least.
We've been trying to do that for years. It hasn't worked. It's really expensive. So maybe we try something different based on evidence and the medical consensus and the criminological consensus. No, okay. No evidence here.
Insane idea that the Green Party have. Here's another fun one. They want to abolish landlords.
Based.
Okay.
Hello, my darlings. My name's Alexander Salons, and I am the lead proposer of Abolish Landlords. Abolish Landlords is fundamentally about starting a green narrative on the housing crisis. No more of the YIMBY-NIMBY bullshit. Okay, we're going to be talking about wealth inequality. Who owns the housing? What kind of housing is built? Okay, who is getting the profits from this? We believe that we should be building council housing, a new generation of luxury council housing that everyone can enjoy. Okay, no more of this unaffordable landlord special, mold painted over crap that we've been dealing with. Rent's so unaffordable that they take more than half your pay packet. And this is just the start. The Green Party is on a new level now. We are talking about wealth inequality. We are talking about taking back what is ours, taking back what was privatized by Thatcher.
Listen, the private rental market is actually really important in the economy. If you move from one city to another to take up a new job, or for whatever reason, you probably want to be able to rent a property in that new city. You do that through the private rental market, and the people providing that service are landlords. Am I pretending that there aren't tons of landlords out there who are pretty terrible and abuse their tenants? No, I'm not.
Okay, what would your solution be then?
Know that that's true, but the way to fix that isn't simply abolishing landlords. And then the Green Party have this idea, well, the state is going to build all of this luxury council housing and they're going to rent it out to people at low, low prices. Okay, feels like a bit of a sort of communist, socialist, utopian dream, right? The state...
No, it's pretty conventional. Vienna did it. They've got 62% social housing. We can do this. It's a political choice. The idea that housing should not be a commodity that people make, trillions of pounds on across the world, in America, the UK, the West. A lot of money is made by private landlords who don't produce any value. They just scrape money off people who work hard. This is not controversial. This shouldn't be controversial. This is popular. People want to be able to afford housing. And this is a moral argument. Why should people spend most of their money throughout their lives just to live somewhere? Rent and housing should be affordable. That should be our priority. You can't really argue against this unless you are a beneficiary of private landlord equity. It's just common sense policy, really.
Can definitely do this really efficiently. Everyone's going to have cheap housing and it's going to be fantastic. Look, I don't think the British government or the state can produce anything luxury at all. And usually...
Okay, what argument? Based on what? Because landlords aren't. Landlords do not produce luxury. They will do the most bare minimum. Come on.
When we try to build something, it costs an absolute fortune.
Yeah, but that's not inherent to the government. That's consultants and privatization. If we did it in-house, like we did through the 20th century, it's incredibly affordable.
And takes forever. But putting all of that aside, I don't have a problem in principle with the idea of building more council housing. I don't have a problem with that. But why do you have to abolish landlords to achieve that? If you think truly, as the Greens, that you can build all of this luxury council housing and rent it out for these low prices, do it. You will then be competing.
No, because we're signalling the fact that it is unfair that just a rich amount of people who are wealthy buy up houses and then rent them out at extortionate costs to people, a younger generation who pay often a third, sometimes half of their income on just renting. This is a massive injustice. It's actually abhorrent if you think about it. The fact that our generation are having to just make the wealthy wealthier. They're just extracting wealth from younger people. Why not make housing affordable so people can have a good quality of life? They have hope for the future and they can have a family, population decrease. They can, even their mental health will be impacted. People will be better off in terms of well-being. They'll have more money in their pockets they can spend. That will stimulate the economy. So many benefits of it.
Against those private landlords, but guess what? You're providing luxury cheaper. So why would anyone go to the private landlords? They'll have to lower their prices.
Yes, they will.
So there's no reason whatsoever to go on this, abolish landlords tirade.
Yes, there is, because housing should just be a right, a human right. It shouldn't be so expensive. And you spend half of your rent, half of your income on it. That's horrible. That's disgusting.
Do it all ourselves, right? You don't know that you can do it all yourselves. Why don't you just try and compete against the private landlord market if that's what you want to do? Here's a strange one for you. Zack Polanski backs Scottish and Welsh independence. Now,
oh my God. I wonder if he voted for Brexit because they, like sovereignty. Why is that strange? I think the UK are better together, personally. But if Wales want independence and Scotland do, especially over Brexit, that should be their choice. That should be their democratic self-determination, sovereignty. Come on.
I didn't see him say it anywhere, but I presume he backs Northern Irish independence as well, because it would be strange to support Wales and Scotland, but not Northern Ireland. So effectively what we're talking about here is the breakup of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom would no longer be a thing. And I'm going to be honest, I think that would be a terrible decision for Wales and Scotland. If you look at the Barnett formula, we are sending from England, we are basically subsidising Wales and Scotland. And part of that is because we've got London in England, right? But
no, a huge part of it is London is subsidising the rest of the UK. Come on. I'm sure this guy loves London as well. So come on, the hypocrisy is astonishing.
I don't think it would be good for Wales and Scotland, but ultimately, it's their decision. I'm a nationalist, and I think that the people who are of a country should be able to determine its future.
So why is it insane then? You said it was an insane thing. Oh, okay.
So if the Scottish really truly want independence, I'm inclined to say they should have another referendum. That's not going to win me any favours with my audience, I'm sure. Do I want...
Oh my God. Because they're anti-democratic. At least he knows that his audience are anti-democratic and don't care about self-determination and sovereignty. Fair play.
To see them go? No. Would I make the argument against it? Yes, but I do think that they should be able to decide. That doesn't mean you get a referendum every year, but at some point, they're probably going to have to be given that choice again if they keep voting for the SNP and whatever else. Now, at the same time, you have to ask, why is Zack Polanski doing this? I think he's trying to do some clever politicking here. I don't think he actually believes that the union should be broken up. I could be wrong. I think what he's trying to do is convince people in Scotland and Wales who want independence to vote for the Greens, because people in Scotland have been voting for the SNP time and time again. But the SNP, even when they win almost every seat in Scotland, can't convince Westminster to give them another referendum. However, if the Greens came into power, partially thanks to winning lots of seats in Scotland, well, then Westminster would already be convinced, right? The Green Party have said they'll give you another referendum. So I think what he's trying to do is appeal to those voters in Scotland and Wales who want independence and trying to pick up a few extra seats in those countries. Will it work? I don't know.
Wales isn't a country, by the way, but okay. Yeah, and that's good politics. Oh, appealing to people. Okay. Naughty boy, Zach.
Time will tell. Of course, the Green Party have other policies that I haven't spoken about in this video. They're big advocates for open borders, which is kind of mental.
No, they're not. No, they're not. This is just a dog whistle, open borders. What does that even mean? No, they mean immigration is a good thing, positive. We celebrate immigration. That doesn't mean open borders. That means, obviously, there's limits to the amount of people we can take, but we celebrate and we embrace immigration. He's never said open borders.
I mean, it doesn't work. We've had open borders. 1 in 20 people currently in the UK.
We haven't had open borders. What do you mean it doesn't work? America, the richest, most prosperous country on the planet, relies on immigration. They have 1 million people immigrate into the US a year. Their economy is literally, well, it's faltering now under Trump, don't get me wrong, but that's nothing to do with it. Well, maybe it's a little bit the immigrants' fault because they did vote for Trump.
Arrived here in the last 4 years or 5 years now. So look, it just doesn't work. We know it doesn't work.
Evidence, data, just emotion. We know it doesn't work. Well, we know it does work, actually, because if we didn't have these immigrants, our economy would be worse off than it is already.
It's terrible. It's ruining the country.
Oh, the audience is like, yeah, immigration. We hate immigrants. Just no evidence. I would love to talk to him and say, okay, what evidence do you have for this? And he would just be like, what? Do you mean evidence?
The Green Party want open borders. Fantastic. Of course.
No, they don't. It's a complete straw man. No, we want sensible immigration, like most people do. People actually do want immigration. They're constantly told that immigrants are all the problem. No, we should take immigration. We benefit from immigration, and it has to be sensible, evidence-based. How many people can we take? How many refugees can we take? Because we don't take our fair share of refugees. Just base our policy on evidence. What benefits the UK? Build more houses. Decommodify housing. Make it cheaper. Build more housing. Decriminalize drugs. These are sensible, popular ideas. Wealth taxes. 75% of the population are backing a wealth tax. This is why the right-wingers across the board are moulding. They're like, oh, Zach, how dare he have popular policies, be charismatic and answer questions directly. Ooh.
Of course they do. They also want a wealth tax. Again, terrible idea. If you're worth £100 million.
So how are we going to spend? So he's saying like, oh, we need to crack down on these illegal drug cartels and gangs. How are we going to afford it? Because you've got two options. You've got the reform option, cut state spending, cut public spending, and impact the poor more, which is what we saw under the Tories, 14 years of austerity where 300,000 people were killed, or we tax wealthy. That's the two options. Labour are too cowardly to do the wealth tax, so they're doing some increase in public spending, but also cutting other public spending. Which one is it? I know which one I favour.
Living in this country, why would you give the British state 2% of that, £2 million every year, for the foreseeable future. I mean, you just wouldn't, right? It's just
Oh, so patriotic. Why would you give your country money so you can rebuild the country and make it more prosperous and less equal and make the well-being of your brothers and sisters throughout the nation that you love, that are just like you, part of your being? See, they just hate the country. They just hate the country. This false patriotism, this plastic populism is just so obviously just nothing. Like, they just love the wealthy. It's just genuflecting to the wealthy. This is why I hate nationalism, because it is just a, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll have the crumbs. I'll have the crumbs. I mean, he's doing okay from grifting, but the people who vote reform will regret it.
crazy. You would just leave. Of course you would. You just go to greener pastures, because in 5
No, there's no evidence of that, especially people in London. The wealthy people who are in London and the southeast. No, they won't. We have evidence of this. London is a very happening place.
years, that's 10% of your wealth. Anyone who's wealthy and thinks about wealth will know that there's no reason to stay in.
How much do you need, though? If you're at that level, like, how many gold bars do you need? I don't know what wealthy people buy. Fabergé eggs, I don't know. Like, how many Fabergé eggs do you need to put up your fucking arse?
UK if you're going to be taxed like that. So then you'll lose their capital gains tax, you'll lose the VAT on the Lamborghinis that they buy and whatever else. Again, not a good tax idea, not a good idea at all. That's what the Green Party want to do. So there's loads of terrible ideas they've got. I really struggle. I've tried to be fair in this video.
Really? You kind of think, oh yeah, probably decriminalisation is a good idea, but I can't say that because that would seed ground, and obviously he's an ideologue. And then he's saying, like, abolish landlords, which is a based idea, by the way. Decommodifying houses, building houses, like, amazing idea. This is so strong and amazing. And then, oh, we can't just tax the wealthy, they'll leave. Even no evidence of that. I think it's 0.3%. So just feelings. He has a lot of feelings.
Especially when it comes to talking about, you know, like the decriminalisation of drugs. I've tried to look at things from their perspective, but honestly, the vast majority of these ideas are just crap. Like, they're just
Take the U out of drugs. What have you got? Dugs. Have you ever heard of anybody taking dugs?
insane. They're like really radically left-wing student union.
See, that's the only attack you have. Popular policies that will make people's lives better, objectively. Decreased rent. Seeing housing as not an asset that wealthy people can just make more wealth off. Making people's lives better by not decriminalising them for taking drugs, which people have done for thousands of years. And then asking the wealthy to pay their fair share. All reasonable, popular ideas. So you have to say it's student politics. Coming from a guy who probably doesn't believe what he's saying, but makes a lot of money from it.
Politicking, it's just terrible, and it wouldn't work. It will absolutely hasten the destruction of this country.
No, it wouldn't. We had like 92% wealth tax after World War II. We rebuilt the country based on heavy taxes on the wealthy, and we should do it again. That's the only solution. And there's no politician who has the balls, the cojones to do it. Zack Polanski is the man. That's why they are terrified.
Speaking of which, I don't think the Green Party are going to get into power, certainly not without any kind of coalition. And
well, not in the next election, but maybe in the future. Once people wake up to how unpopular and how ineffective reform are, already they are. I mean, look at Kent. Yes, they have power. They will. A viable populist leftist alternative is historically what will be a reaction, a backlash towards fascism.
if they did, I would leave. Like, that would be the final straw for me, because
Bye-bye.
within 6 months,
Bye-bye.
this country would simply collapse, okay? They don't
bye.
understand how to govern, they don't understand money, they don't understand gilts and yields and government borrowing and printing money. They don't
Oh, reform do. Reform do.
understand the effects that these things would have. And so, no,
They actually do. Zach spoke to Richard Murphy, and actually, I'm not an economist, but actually, there's a lot more we can do actually with borrowing and taxes. there's a lot we can do, but these are political choices that should favour the well-being of the majority, not just a small minority.
Nobody would lend money to the UK anymore. The yield would rise. Paying back the debt would become completely unaffordable. They would try and pump up taxes. Everyone would become unemployed because why work when you're trying to give 60, 70, 80% to Zack Polanski?
No, not to Zack Polanski, to rebuilding the country that you love, but obviously not. So, bye-bye, fuck off then, bye-bye.
It's just not going to work, is it? The state would effectively just collapse. Now,
based on nothing, just fear. How dare we tax the wealthy who just leech off the system, who exploit and leech wealth off the workers? How dare we do that?
People have argued, I see them arguing it all the time, that maybe that's what we need. We need the British state to collapse before we
Who the fuck is arguing that? No one argues that. I mean, they're insane accelerationists, but no one serious is arguing that.
can actually start fixing things. There might be some truth to that, okay? Does that mean I'm going to vote for the Green Party? No. I would genuinely just get out of the country at that point. It's funny because the things that they love and cherish, the NHS, the welfare state, pensions.
Yeah, pensions. Oh, God. People who, worked the whole life paying into the system. God, why should they be able to have a few years rest, 20, 30 years rest? Yeah. God. At least he's honest in his contempt for the working people. He doesn't want people, welfare state, NHS, pensions. Fucking hell, they're woke, mate.
All of that would just disappear because they don't know how to run the country. They don't understand money or
no evidence of that.
Or the economy or taxation. They don't know how these things work, and they would destroy the things that they love.
But we build those, we create those. They aren't just a thing that we discovered one day. We can control how those things work. We have agency. And at the moment, the neoliberal paradigm isn't working. So we can shift it to a more socialist, more people compassionate based politics where we go, actually, what policies and taxation would favour the majority? We can rebuild the country. And that means taxing the wealthy. It kind of is that simple.
About this socialist utopia. It would all just evaporate.
Just fear-mongering, no arguments.
Anyway, food for thought. Look, I'm going to leave it there. It's probably a long, sort of slightly rambling video. Been ill the last few days. We've had a bit of stormy weather coming.
Yeah, so no arguments really. Popular policies. People want to decriminalise drugs. They want to not just pay a third or half of their rent to a landlord they've worked hard for. And people want taxes on the wealthy. They do. 75% want some form of wealth tax. And there's different means of doing that. Capital gain tax, the 2% that Zack Polanski has proposed on assets over 10 million. Popular. We need to rebuild the country on the backs of the wealthy, not the poorest in society. So if you enjoyed the video, if you got to this point, thank you very much. Please join the membership from 99p a month. Join the Green Party if you are able to. We are building a resistance against fascism. Hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.